All right, we're going to start the finance meeting. It's 3:15. And I think what we'll do, we'll start off. I know we have a gentleman here from Duke who has an explanation of a proposal. We'll go with you shortly after, but if police and fire, if you guys want to give us what you guys are here for, so we can take care of you guys, and then we'll take care of these guys, and then finish the.
And then dig into this.
I mean,
Let's talk from here. Or you want to?
the microphone up here if you want to.
Sergeant Phil Cintron from the police department. Here on behalf of the chief. He asked me to come speak. He couldn't make it today. Here to address you guys on the topic of our patrol car fleet. I know he's been, looks like he's been corresponding with Mr. Sanker about some replacement vehicles. Without reading the entire email he sent me here, he asked me to stress to you guys the dire situation that we're in with regards to patrol cars. At this point, we have 13 patrol vehicles, 2 of which are assigned to the K9 unit. One is a spare, and one is the car that they actually use currently. One of those 11 is out of service. It needs a $3,000 repair. That's more than the car is actually worth. It's a 2007 model that it's not feasible for us to make that repair. Every other car, with the exception of 4 new Ford Explorers that we have, are in need of some type of repair. We have 3 2013 Dodge Chargers that we purchased after the Crown Victoria went out of production, and I don't want to call it an experiment, but it was to try that model out. That's not worked out well for us. Each one of those has over 70,000 miles, and they all, at this point, need to be retired. They have significant mechanical difficulties. They're consistently out of service due to mechanical problems. Outside of the 4 Ford Explorers that we have, every other car is over 100,000 miles. This is no knock on our maintenance staff. I mean, they do the best they can to keep us up and running. It's actually a miracle that we're at the point we're at now. It's only with their help that we're able to run every day. He sent me a breakdown of each car. At this point, we have, out of those 13 cars, we have 4 that don't need significant repair. One has been damaged in an auto accident. That's the car I mentioned that has a $3,000 repair cost. Another 2010 has 145,000 miles. The engine's burning oil. The spare K9 car is not currently in need of any maintenance, but it's outworn, or it's outlasted its useful life. A 2013 Dodge Charger, 72,000 miles, needs a lower radiator hose replaced. It has constant steering issues. It requires to send it back to the dealer. Another 2013 Dodge, 73,000 miles, same issues with the steering. It's been at the Dodge dealer 3 times within the past month. Another 2013 Dodge, 70,000 miles. It's currently at the Dodge dealer with steering issues also, and with engine problems. We have a 2009 Crown Victoria, which we bought secondhand from Amberley Village, that needs upper control arms replaced. Another 2009 Crown Victoria, also from Amberley Village. Engine cooler lines are leaking. Those last 2 are currently in service now. And then we have our 2015 Ford Explorers and 1 2016 Ford Explorer that are at this point in good repair. He asked that I reiterate to you guys that we've presented a lease plan which would allow us to purchase new cars this year and not commence payment until 2017. That we could delay payments until then. But as cars are deemed no longer safe for patrol work, we're going to have to, what we term deadline cars, meaning that we put them out of service permanently. And at this point, we really can't afford to do that, because we have 4 cars that we can use on a consistent basis, and we have between 6 and 8 officers that work per shift. So that's going to severely affect our ability to respond to calls and the safety of the officers that are on the street. So what we're going to have to start doing if we deadline cars is have officers ride 2 to a car or find some alternate form of patrol, which is definitely going to affect our response times in a negative fashion and put us at a disadvantage in operations. So if you guys need any more specifics, I'd be glad to give it to you.
Well, we really don't. It's just been a matter, and I explained to the chief, maybe somebody else can help me, but I just, the only feasible way, is if we don't pay for these things till next year. That's a possibility. We don't know if the money will be there next year. The other thing would be we could say, yep, go ahead and order them, and then when we can't make the payment next year, then we send them back. And I don't get into a position like that. However, I don't know, I came across this local government safety capital grant program. And one of the leading things they list on that thing there is for vehicles. What these things, at least one of the primary things, it's for police and fire, safety, this grant. And I don't know whether the deadline is the 21st of this month, but I don't know whether we've considered, applying for a couple cars, being the dire need, whether that would put us at the top of the list as an eligible project, because it says purchase vehicles, equipment, and so forth. But I don't know if we've looked into that. I haven't had anybody say to me, hey, why don't we try this? First, we just have been asked to find a way to fund them. To me, would be a way to fund them. I don't know whether if we've applied for this.
Yeah, I can speak to that. I'm actually their grant writer as well. Originally, I was instructed to apply for that specific grant for lead remediation at the police academy and improvements over there. However, I just heard back from the administrators of that grant that hazardous materials cleanup is not a allowable cost, which wasn't really spelled out in the request. Yeah. So with less than a week to change that, I've had to go kind of to a plan B, which is submitting for some other equipment for in-car video cameras. But to build a car, to get quotes for it, to get equipment quotes from our vendor, it takes a significant amount of time, which wouldn't allow me time to submit that. And additionally, it's $100,000 for the entire city. And from my understanding, the fire department's already submitted for a vehicle, or they were the last time we talked. So the pricing breakdown on these cars ends up being just over $50,000 each. So I don't know that it would even be feasible for us to obtain one with this. And I'm also out of time at this point anyways. So
You may pay the least payments for the first year out of that would go a long way.
The way a lot of these go is you would have to buy the entire piece of equipment with the grant amount. They don't generally let you split up the cost, saying, well,
reading through it, we would have to pay the money up front and then submit it, and then we'd be reimbursed for the funds, if I remember reading that right. Number one, I didn't realize that we've already applied for stuff I didn't know how we set the priorities on that, but that would seem to me would have been one of the first things we'd have looked at. But I don't know. I mean, the lease program that I have it probably in one of these files. I believe he said the payments wouldn't start coming due until
1 year after
next year. But at that, I mean, I don't know. I don't know that we'd be able to do, 4 to begin with, even next year. I mean, that as far as to start the payments, I don't have a crystal ball what the amount of money is going to be coming in, but I don't think it's going to be that much greater than what it is this year. But that to me, would be the only feasible way that we could even entertain, the payments couldn't, well, obviously, we wouldn't be able to even think about, paying, making a payment on them until, next year. And I don't even,
I think the point he wanted me to underscore here is that and this has been a recurring thing year to year, every year that we do this where we skip replacing the fleet, it puts us further into the hole.
Yeah.
Like I said, the 2015 cars that we have now have 25,000 miles on them in 1 year, which is an extraordinary rate of use. So as time goes on without replacements being supplied, then it just further exacerbates the problems. It digs us deeper into the hole, I guess. So.
Ideally, we've discussed in the past, and we even started to implement it at one time before the bottom fell out, but, a replacement program not only for, cruisers, but also paramedics and public works trucks and that too. And that type of program really is necessary. However, the problem is being able to set aside so much every year to say, okay, we can't touch that for anything else when, we're got to pay personnel in that, first. So, but I do agree. I mean, we do need, I'm trying to figure out somehow, and as I said to the chief too, I try to find a way to be able to initiate somewhere we could put together some program to start next year. I mean, as far as, paying on them next year. But I mean, from what I've looked at, I mean, if we really wouldn't probably have funds available next year even for a payment until at least April. What would you?
Just a comment, we realize the need is there, but we don't have any funds. And our income from earnings tax is down 5% this year. We didn't expect that to happen either. We do have, a company coming on board is going to have 1,000 employees probably in September or by September or something like that, but we can't spend that money till we get it. It's not a shunning the police department thing and shunning this and shunning that. We've owed 2 dump trucks to Public Works for a year and a half, 2 years, and the same situation happened. It's if maybe you get somebody to sponsor a car. I mean, we've had that done before.
Actually, we did have one. The only one we purchased in 2016 was a private donation. The K9 car we got partially paid for. Most of the cars we have now we bought partially with drug funds, but that funding is at this point on hold, maybe permanently. So we bought used cars. We've done pretty much everything we can do to kind of plug the gaps to have something. And that's why you see that we drive cars that are 3 different colors, is because we're buying them from other departments. And I recognize the situation you're in. The chief recognizes the situation you're in. But at this point, my point of coming to talk to you guys tonight is just to tell you guys the fact that we are getting to the point very rapidly that we will not be able to operate with what we have for much longer. So the fiduciary part of that's obviously your guys' wheelhouse, but we felt the need to come stress to you that we are at a dire point. This is not a luxury item that we're coming to ask you guys for. This is something that absolutely is the cost of doing business with the police department and that we have to have for public safety. I know that's not lost on you guys, but we wanted to underscore the fact that it's coming to a head that we're not going to be able to operate with what we have for much longer. So
We've gotten to the point where the police should have been paid their police training allowance and their buyback in December, before Christmas. They still haven't gotten it. I'm hoping first week of April, we'll get caught up on that. But if we do that, then we can't pay the clothing allowance, and the fire buyback will suffer and have to be pushed back. And we've got vendors to the tune of, to bring us up to 30 days, we need another $203,000 that we're short. And we missed payroll in February. We're really struggling right now, and a lot of what this meeting is going to talk about is how we make sure that you get all the paychecks you're supposed to get in March, which we're squeaking by and should be able to do. So it's not that we're spending money on something else. I mean, our priority is payroll, and our priority is our employees, and new police cars are on that list that I've got. They're just a little further down the list. The payment that was made to, for the last lease for the police vehicles got paid a month late. So, understand the seriousness of the situation from your side. Also understand where we're coming from and just trying to figure out how we're going to pay things. It does start to get a little better next year, but at the end of next year, we're not going to be caught up. We're still going to owe money. And it's going to take 2 years to 2.5 to get out of the hole we're in. But
We do appreciate you coming, honestly, and we'll try and figure something out, but either send the chief or yourself a note and see where we're at by the end of this month here and see if there's something we can do but somehow we're trying to figure something out, to get us through, so, but it really hasn't, may seem like it, but it really hasn't fallen on deaf ears, and I wish there was a better answer to give you, but I do appreciate it.
All right, thanks for your time, guys.
Thanks. Did you want to say something on the radio?
Yeah, we can.
Stay up there.
Oh, sorry.
Was that included in the packet for everyone?
Everybody should have received a thing on the radios. I know.
So to get you up to speed with what's going on, you guys know we're replacing the dispatch consoles because they're being out of date. When I approached the last council regarding that project, we made them aware of the fact that the portable radios, the mobile radios that the fire department uses, the portable radios that the police department uses, they will be going out of date. So this Sergeant Cintron and I have been working together on the dispatch side, which is a project that's being taken now. We're working on having that up and running by the end of June. We were providing the safety service director with the approximate costs of replacing those radios. What we have currently in use is no longer produced. The mobile radios that we have in the fire trucks have very limited part support right now. The portables that we use have part support, but we don't know how long that's going to be available. So in doing that, we provided the safety service director with a total cost number, and it was, I don't have the figures in front of me, we'll call it $450,000 to replace all the radios for police and for fire. This was given to him just to say, hey, we need to let council know this is going to be a project that needs to be planned for. Doesn't necessarily have to be done now. We can get through this year and portion of next year with the current status of what we have. Fire department is a little better off than police department in regards to radios. They have very limited spares. We have a few, so we're sitting in a little better position in regards to the radio front. With that being said, once we've had those numbers to sit down with Mr. Gears and the mayor, Motorola offered the city a 20% discount if we made a purchase of those, and offered us lease terms on those radios that would provide us replacement of everything. Payment wouldn't be due until execution, 1 year after the execution of the lease. Now, part of the issue with that is this lease would have to be executed by a week from tomorrow. Motorola is aware of our predicament, where we are with the timeline. The vendors can have the paperwork done. We weren't even going to propose this to you guys, but knowing that we need to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money as well, we needed to let you guys know that you have an opportunity to save the taxpayers over $100,000 on equipment that will need to be replaced in the next year and a half. Now, I want to remind council that the city never paid for any of the current radios that we utilize. The fire department was able to replace its radios and go on the new system utilizing a fire grant, and the late Mr. Lindner purchased the radios for the police department. So this is 12 years of use of portable radio and mobile radio equipment that the city has had very little money invested in, just repairs. They've been pretty good radios, but they're out of date. You know, you can reasonably expect probably definitely the price can go back up to 20%, and typically Motorola has a price increase between 7 and 13% annually. So we were planning on this for, hey, you guys need to be prepared for this. It's going to happen. You're going to have to replace these things. But with that price savings, when we brought it to the safety service director, he said we needed to bring it to you. When I completely agree. Any questions?
Well, when I kind of read through, we're going to replace all the radios that we currently have.
Correct.
And I didn't know if this included some additional ones as backups, or if it was a straight swap out, like if we had, I forget, one was 32 and...
Yes. Keep in mind that those include, we have planned for having backup. The police as well have. Now, they've got radios that are just broken and unable to fix.
Yeah, but I mean, it's at like 60 and 32, for
us,
police and,
yes.
but it encompasses both departments.
Correct, yes.
And as these become, as you said, they're out of production. So as the ones we have break, we're forced to purchase new ones no matter what way we go. So if I am in a foot chase and drop my radio down the sewer or something, we have to buy a brand new one. There's no replacing what we have. There's no, the model that we currently use is there's no way to replace it if you need to buy another one. So.
And that's what we have. When we've been reprogramming the radios to the new system and getting ready for the changeover in June, the police specifically have a couple that are just done. Now I understand the city's financial position, but you're talking about a significant savings, and we thought it would be best to bring it to your attention.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a chance that the same offer would be available down, a couple months from now, a year from now?
So we've been dealing, the fire department specifically has been dealing with radios over the last 2.5 years. We've actively pursued getting them replaced through the fire grant system. We were unsuccessful in our grant request last year. This is the first time that we have seen any savings offered from Motorola. My guess is that they were having a foul first quarter and offered this across the nation. The turn-in portion of the radios, I'm guessing, is they're wanting to get those off the streets and maybe even harvest them for some parts too. We don't know. But we have not been able to get confirmation on specific parts availability from Motorola regarding the mobiles. For certain they will not, because those have been out of production for almost 3 years. The portables themselves have been out of production for over a year.
So this isn't just something that comes up frequently, like sales at the
No.
store, for instance?
No,
Okay.
we project the average length of time for the radios to actually be utilized is between 12 and 15 years. You know, we're at 12 right now. When we were talking, we could probably go another year and a half. But when you look at the total cost, I know from the fire department standpoint, we were looking at it, it averages out cost of the item. It's a good return on investment. You know, we don't have, they're well made. We have very good success with them. We don't have a high service turnaround with them. They're pretty durable.
What's the bottom line number on the lease program?
It's in your packet. It really would depend on what option you guys selected.
There's a 3, 5, and 7 year.
Yeah.
It'd be the total right now, the discounted rate was $347,425. And the 7-year option on that, would be like a $58,000 annual payment. Well, 57.9, so 58,000. 5 year was 77, and the 3 year was 124.
I believe there's no prepayment penalty, so as the city
Right.
grows,
Yeah.
is able to strengthen its financial forecast and decides it wants to pay it off, they decide to do it and do it early, no cost out of pocket. There's no prepayment penalties.
If we were to commit to 58,000 extra dollars in March of next year, we're showing over $1 million shortfall in March of next year.
Yep.
You know, if the longer it could be pushed back, the more feasible things like that come. And the 20%, that's huge. That's great. You know, good work on going out and getting that. But at this point, if it was 50%, I mean, let's say that you're like, wow, that payment's only going to be $30,000 next March. Well, we're still $1 million short. Some of that can be made up, and you know, as we look at our financial projections for the first quarter of next year, we need to essentially request our property tax early as it comes in, just to fill the holes so that we'll hit payroll in the first quarter. Because I don't want a repeat of this February, but you know, great deal. I don't know if we can afford it.
So, but we need to make a decision on it pretty quick.
You
I mean,
need to, yeah.
long and short of it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's,
Ultimately,
But
I mean,
reading
the
it-
option is gonna run out on that deal.
Is that next
My-
Tuesday or next Wednesday?
Next Wednesday.
Okay, so you got
So
a council
essentially,
meeting.
if it was at this committee's pleasure and wanted to put it to council, you would have to vote that in 3 readings that night. And I would have to tell Motorola, we're gonna need those documents prior to the meeting, ready to go. I need 24 hours advance notice if that's the pleasure. I don't, you know, I understand, you guys are in a tough spot, but this is a cost that's gonna come down your way. I just don't know how much more it will be when we have to do it.
I know you said that you've been exploring safety grants and have been turned down, but is that something that you can continue to?
Well, actually, I'm glad you asked that. The fire department has actually requested fire funding through the fire grant for this project again. Now, we were able to reduce some of our costs because of the dispatch adjustments that we're doing now. It kind of reduced our cost. So, one thing will happen is if we do get that funding, we can roll that right in and pay the fire department portion right away of this. But unfortunately, we have no idea when those funds become available or if we even get awarded. And basically the way that system works, the requests get peer reviewed, they go through computer scoring, and then if your congressmen and senators like you and put in a good word for you, sometimes you get funding. Now, Norwood has been very successful in getting federal funding, at least for the fire department side. We have garnered over close to $4 million in federal funding over the last decade. We've been able to replace our air packs twice using federal money. The city hasn't had to pay anything for. We've been able to purchase probably 70 sets of turnout gear. That is expensive. It's an expensive cost of doing business that the city hasn't had to pay for. Right now, we're the benefits of having 6 employees paid for 100%, lock, stock, and barrel, courtesy of the federal government. And that should have run out. That should have been done in November. But we were able to extend that funding an additional, probably we're guessing 4 or 5 months. But of those 6, one of those employees will be carried an additional year for a 3rd year. And then we've got 5 new employees that are starting that will be covered. I think, I know the police department's done their part in looking for grants and requesting monies. Doing the best we can. We understand the financial position the city's in. We also understand we have a duty to provide services, and there's a certain cost to that.
Mr. Sinker. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sinker. I was just curious, and I assume the answer is yes. Is Motorola the only vendor that we can use for these radios?
Yes.
Gotcha.
They built the system that it runs on, so they're unfortunately the only option.
The city of Cincinnati went through a similar discussion about their police radios not too long ago. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but Motorola is 100% the vendor for the system. They actually call it a monopoly on public safety communications.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Just to interject for a second, as far as the grant opportunities that the fire department has available to them to replace their system, it's not really a one-for-one with law enforcement. Our grants are more geared towards community relations, things like that. It's very hard for us to stretch into why we need to replace portable radios to assist in community relations and things of that nature. So most of the grants available to us on a yearly basis are $50,000 or less. It would only cover a small portion of what we need. So we're not really in the same boat as far as the hopes of us submitting for grants or getting funding for the entire project.
So I know you said that we have to have these by, like, I guess a certain date next year. I'm guessing there's no way to delay that date by continuing to use an existing system.
I think when we were speaking with the safety service director, we were quite comfortable in taking our existing systems forward for another year. The idea initially was to present you with the information needed for budgetary planning, that this council would need to plan for these purchases coming up. Drop dead time, we can't give you one. We don't know. But as Sergeant Cintron said, as radios get broken, you're going to be replacing them. Now you're piecemealing a system. And they're expensive. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but each radio is
$3,500.
close to $4,000 per radio. And then you get into a timeline fashion. Now you've got stuff that's intermixed. It's not ideal in a mission critical component that we utilize, just life safety. We depend on a daily basis.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, what I think what we probably, would suggest we do would be we can report this out to a full body of council for discussion and that on Tuesday. And to see what we can come up with as well, involve everybody else at the same time.
Would you like for us to be present at the council meeting to answer questions for the members that aren't here?
Possibly. I mean, I can let you know, or, by the end of the
You
week.
got our number.
Yeah,
That's it.
I mean, so
Very
it
good.
probably
Thank
wouldn't be a bad idea.
Thank you for your time.
All right,
Appreciate it.
thanks. At least he's supposedly going to save us money instead of costing us. I'm sorry. Sorry to hold you up there, but
The reason we're here tonight, approached me about 3 weeks ago to do a survey of some of our buildings with, due to the lighting and bow assist, and asked which two buildings we think we'd want to start out with. And anyway, so I said, well, definitely City Hall and the fire department. The reason I brought up the fire department is because they put a request in this January to replace all the lighting out on the bay floor. And I think that was, I know you got the numbers, was about $8,100, $8,200. So with all that being said, we took a day and a half, or about 5 hours, 4.5 hours each day, took 2 days, and went and counted everything, or I didn't, but Ryan counted everything and took all the records, and basically got a report back, and that's going to be easier for him to explain to me of how this works and what savings there is, and how the payback time frame is by changing stuff out and with this being done. This would include contractors coming in, changing everything, the ballast out, the light bulbs, the fixtures and that, and would all be rolled in. So with that, if it's all right.
Okay. Yeah, Ryan Winkler with Duke Energy Small Business Program, Energy Saver Program. So yeah, we came to Joe, and I'd like to thank Joe for all the time and energy spent helping me out, and the patience going room to room throughout this entire building, fire department, room by room, counting every single light in the place. We had help from fire department, someone there, someone in the police department, and then various people throughout this building kind of helping us out with, hey, these are the lights in here, these are the number of hours that they're on. So that's kind of how we come up with the numbers that we do, is we say, what's our starting point with a light fixture? What are we going to go to? We know what the wattage is currently, we know what it's going to be with what we propose, and then we get the best information that we can to look at the hours. So that's kind of how we come up with these savings numbers, so you guys know. So yeah, back in February the 16th and 17th, we spent that time together. I guess one bit of news, there was actually a law that was passed back in 2012 that outlawed the production of the magnetic ballast that the T12 lights run on, that are throughout a lot of this building and throughout some of the fire department. So currently, they are available. The ballasts are a little bit difficult to find. The T12 lights you can get at Lowe's, Home Depot, but over time here, those are being phased out and won't be available eventually. So that's what this program is really based on. Is Duke is offering up incentives for customers, be it City Hall or schools, churches, commercial buildings, to update their lighting, and Duke pays usually a considerable portion of the bill. That includes labor and material of the cost to do so. So with respect to your guys' project, we did look at the City Hall building and also the fire department building. And also throw out there, we do offer up a 5-year warranty on all of our bulbs and ballasts. So you guys won't have a cost to replace the light bulbs or the ballast for 5 years. And there is no payment due until after the installation. We have a couple of options as far as payment goes. One option would be to take a lump sum discount. We offer up a 5% discount, which after the work is done, we would just then invoice you. That's regular 30-day invoice, and you would achieve a 5% overall discount for that. Option B is to finance over 12 months. We offer 0% financing for 12 months, which is obviously an attractive option. One caveat with that, it does, basically it's an auto withdrawal from either a checking savings account or we take any of the major credit cards. So, and it would just be billed to a credit card each month.
The city doesn't have credit cards.
Okay.
Municipalities don't carry them.
Okay.
We wish we did.
I'm glad we don't.
Yeah. So I just wanted to let you know that if you choose the financing option, that is part of the story on that. So to look at the two buildings, I'll give you the highlights. I'm not going to go through obviously line by line of what we did, but if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me. The fire department building, Duke, total cost for that job is $16,489.80.
Duke is paying over 40% of that bill. The incentives that they're granting on that project are $6,641.15, which means the lump sum payment would be $9,359.30, or 12 monthly payments of $820.72. The savings that's generated by making the switch over to the more efficient lights, annual savings estimate is $3,700 or $3,750 per year, which means essentially your net cost is $508 per month for the fire department building, after a savings of $312. So that's the monthly payment, 12 monthly payments of $820, subtract out savings of $312.19, put your cost, basically net cost per month at $508.53 if you finance. The second building, City Hall building, there was actually a lot more here in the way of upgrade opportunity. The total cost for the job for this building would be $35,934.55. The amount that Duke would pay is actually 76% of the bill on this project. So the incentive dollars were $27,260.11. So your payback for this building here is only sitting at 6.5 months, which annual savings estimate is $15,400 per year, and that includes a lump sum option of $8271.27, or 12 monthly payments of $722.87. If you take into account estimated savings of $1,281.46 per month relative to a cost of $722, you guys are basically in a cash positive situation in the amount of $558.59 per month. So looking on a combined basis, the net cost for the fire department building was $508.53 per month. For this building, you're in a cash positive situation of $558.59, which means if you combine the two projects together, we'd essentially be paying you $50.06 per month to do the project, to do both of them together. Again, you've got a 5-year warranty on the bulbs and the ballast, so you won't have those costs over the next 5 years. So if you look at the 5-year savings, essentially relative to the customer contribution, they're really pretty significant for you, in the tens of thousands of dollars.
I feel like, do you all have the form, this form here for the fire station building? I couldn't find that one in my packet.
What I did is I gave this out to finance 2 weeks ago, and that was in that packet. Unfortunately, I think Tammy and Joe were the only two present at that meeting, so we couldn't have a meeting. Those packets, I'm assuming, should be in the clerk of council's office. But
And-
that was included.
And I think I emailed that to you as well.
That's right.
Could you give I guess I'll just write it down here separately. If you have that number, if you could just run us these numbers here.
Yep, for the fire department?
Yeah, for the fire department.
Yeah, sure. It's
So total project.
total project cost $16,489.80.
Okay.
The small business energy saver incentive $6,641.15.
I don't think they're allowed to do that.
The Duke contribution would be 40.27%. That would leave a customer contribution of $98.48.65. Total annual kilowatt hour savings, 34,057.14. Estimated annual energy cost savings, $3,746.29.
They pay 77% of the whole.
Which comes to you on a monthly basis, $312.19.
But
Payback period of 31.55 months.
But then with the savings per month.
And then under payment options, option A, that line would be $93.59.30. Lump sum payback period with that 5% discount would be 29.98 months. And And option B, interest-free financing would be monthly cost of $820.72 with a net monthly cost of $508.53.
Great, thank you for that.
You're welcome. And one other thing, I guess, we do also have an additional incentive that if you were to move forward by the end of this month and signed off, would pick up an additional $611.08. That's essentially the incentivized or non-incentivized items that you see. It's page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, page 9, where it says non-incentivized work. Those are zeroed out. That total was $611.08 that we would pick up in addition to everything that you see here. If it is signed off by the end of this month. I guess I'll stop there. I know it's a lot of numbers to go through, and open it up to you guys, see if you have any questions.
The bottom line is you'd be replacing all the fixtures in both the firehouse and.
So not all, in the firehouse there were a number of sections that already had been updated. If they're already updated, we have a number of areas. Those areas we wouldn't be updating, so it's basically pretty much everything that has the older lights in them. The fixtures, sometimes there's a new fixture, sometimes we reuse what we can to help reduce cost. So sometimes there would just be a new ballast and bulbs, and other times there would be a new fixture. So it just kind of varies by section, what light's currently there, what we're going to, and basically the run time that those lights would be on. So that is provided essentially in a line-by-line item under what's titled the Energy Savings Report, which is kind of right behind this page. That goes line by line.
And if I can just add with the total cost of the firehouse, back in January, we'd got the cost, as I said earlier, to replace all the lights in the bay area, and that didn't include labor, and the original packet I gave out 2 weeks ago had even the requisition with the cost on it. I want to say it was $8,200 and didn't touch anything else in the firehouse, excuse me, or even the cost of changing them out. So I mean, you're looking at $1,200, give and take a little bit, and you get everything else changed out that needs to be changed out.
How long is the installation supposed to take?
I can get you that exact. We do have an hour estimate. It's in my computer system. I don't have that right in front of me, but that's something I can get to Joe. I mean, it's a sizable project, so it's not going to be a day or two, but I can get you that number.
Okay, thank you.
So, just had a question, Mr. Sinker. Yep. So for the net monthly profit on the firehouse, I think you said $508. Did you mean negative $508 on that one?
Yes, that's correct.
Just because it's a longer buyback,
yes,
a longer payback period.
That would be a cost of $508. Yes.
Sure.
Correct.
I think that's 31 months from it, right?
Yes.
In that ballpark.
31 and a half months on that one. Now, the other project for City Hall that actually is a profit of $558, so that would be a cash positive situation.
Right. And we could apply that towards the firehouse.
Yeah.
In theory.
In theory, and you guys could do both of them basically, and you're still coming out $50 a month ahead in the positive. And that's for 1 year. And then thereafter, you're looking at, for the firehouse, estimated savings of $37.46, and for City Hall here, $15,377. Every year thereafter. And obviously, this doesn't take into account what you guys are currently spending on maintenance. I don't know if that's something you guys have ever figured out as far as as things do go out. What do we spend? That's kind of an unseen savings in addition to these numbers here.
All right. I know you set the time frame the end of the month for this as well, but at least for the extra incentive. I did read in somewhere in here that if we decide not to move forward on something like this, that the funds that typically would, the project funds that you would have been offering to Norwood then will be offered to somewhere else or some other municipality and or school or what have you.
Yeah, good question. So actually, you guys do currently pay into the program. There's on each month's bill, there's an energy efficiency rider, and that's where most of the dollars come from for this program. So obviously, no one's obligated to take it. We're just kind of obligated to let you know that this is out here. Most people don't know that these funds are available. And so it is a budgeted program through Duke. They basically say, we have X amount of dollars available. And so currently, we're holding for you basically for the firehouse that $66.41 and 15 cents, and then for the City Hall building, $27,260.11. They're basically kind of currently attached to your account and being held for you. So but Duke basically does require some sort of forward movement to either take advantage of those or not. And if not, then it does go back into the pool that basically those dollars would become available for someone else. Exactly.
Okay. All right, we'll report this out too and see what we can come up with. I don't know whether if everybody else had copies of this. I know we did
I do have one more question.
Sure.
If the city chooses not to move forward by the end of March, but let's say the end of April or May, I know that the $600 incentive isn't going to be there, but what's the time frame for us to actually make a decision before the funds are allocated elsewhere?
Yeah, well, I don't know that I necessarily have. It's not necessarily a drop dead, time frame on that front. But as I said, it's a budgeted program that typically we only kind of hold these for, I'd say on average about a week, and we've held these for about a month. So I guess there's not necessarily a direct answer as far as here's the date. But usually we don't hold them really much beyond about a month. And you can either give it the thumbs up or not.
If I can add.
Yeah.
They don't have to go hand in hand either.
No.
I mean, they're two separate projects.
Yep.
They're not tied together. It's just the fact that if we do both, we end up saving and basically we end up paying it off through the savings of City Hall. But they're both individual.
Exactly. Yes.
I just wanted to quickly thank Mr. Gears and Mr. Winkler here and anybody else that was involved in helping to kind of do this assessment. The City Hall one just seems like, if we can do it, I want to defer to the other people as well, but it just seems like a no-brainer to...
That's kind of what I said. We had that conversation.
We're actually getting money back every month, like a profit, just for them to do work for us. And so, I hope we can find a way to move forward with that. But I thank you all again for the work you've done so far.
You're welcome.
All right. If we have additional questions or information need, we can go to Mr. Gears or get with you.
What I will do is, for packets going out Friday, I'll get the complete packet that was originally submitted so that all the council members have it. And that includes the firehouse and City Hall. Okay?
Okay. And I'll follow up with Joe to get the number of hours that the estimate is as far as how long the project would take.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Thank you. Well, thanks again for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, if we do it, I'll need a copy.
All right.
It sounds like it's in a lot of pocket.
All right.
The bill we can't pay or not gonna pay is a little less.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. All right, let's kind of move into where we're at here right now. Dollar-wise, bill-wise,
All right.
cash-wise.
Do you want me to explain what all the stacks of paper you have are? First of all, I just supplied a cash position report for each funds. This is what's generated at the end of every month, or we can generate them on a daily basis, showing the beginning fund balances for all of the funds at the beginning of the year, receipts, month-to-date, year-to-date, disbursements from each fund, month-to-date, year-to-date, the balance, encumbrances that are outstanding, those are the existing POs in each one of those funds. The little dash afterwards means that it's negative. The only one on here that actually has a negative, that unexpended balance, is the Pace Communications Fund did go negative, but that one does that at times because it has a specific revenue source and specific expenditures that sort of happen automatically. It'll be back positive. It's probably positive now, but that is supplied every month. I did supply a double-sided long cash flow sheet. We started putting some numbers in for 2017 using the projected revenue numbers from this year and then modifying the numbers just in the first quarter based on not requesting any advances from the property taxes. So that's why you see a big month in April and a big month in May. Typically, you can see that at the beginning of next year, there's some big negatives at the beginning of the year. We can ask for an advance of that money in May to help fill in those negatives. We're not able to do that this year because we're using all that money to pay the bond payment. You'll also notice on the beginning of 2017 at the bottom there, you've got longevity, police buyback, police training allowance in January because I don't think we're going to be able to pay those in December. And you'll also notice a triple payroll in January because I don't think we'll be able to pay all 3 payrolls in December. Just now, we're still 9 months off, but let's be realistic and start planning for things and when we can get caught up and kind of what a long-term plan is going to be for the city financially, and obviously this changes on a monthly basis. This month, if we look at the cash flow sheet, you'll see March, negative $595,000. So we need to move some things forward, which we have done down at the bottom, and there are things that we discussed paying this month and things that we are holding off on paying this month, with a priority being trying to get all 3 payrolls, including the one from February that we didn't pay and we paid on March 1st, then making this a 3 payroll month. So it's a struggle to be caught up. In April, if we pay everything in April and bring us pretty close up to date, we're $390,000 short. So there are some things in April that should be paid that will also need to be pushed off for a while. Similarly, in May, it's just going to be a month-to-month what we can pay and what we can't pay. So when we get to what we can pay and what we can't pay, there's this, kind of all this fine print. This sheet shows all outstanding invoices currently owed by the general fund for the city of Norwood. If we get down to the last page, it kind of gives a little breakdown at the bottom there. This would be color-coded if I had a color printer, but those bottom totals kind of give you an idea of what is 30 days, 90 days, dental, optical, police and fire pension total owed, retirees healthcare total owed, C9 trust total owed, and how much we owe to the state auditor. We really need to start focusing in April on getting caught up on a lot of our vendors, which are mostly what this big list is that you can look here. And you can see the invoice date, and you can see the amount owed, and what each thing is that's here. We really need to start getting caught up on some of those vendors in April. The next sheet is the one that's double-sided that looks like this. And this is what we used last meeting, and it basically is what are the top priorities in March? And on the back, it's what are the priorities in April? And what we can pay in March and April, and this is sort of a beginning spreadsheet for April of where the priorities are going to be, what do we pay first, and what are the priorities in March. We've paid a number of things at the top. One of the questions that came up at the last meeting was MedPace. Can we pay that MedPace payment that's due today? Can we pay that late? Yes, according to their contract, we can pay it late. But if they don't have the check in their hand, in their system, April 1st, we pay an extra $65,000. Now, I'd like to be able to say, because I won't be here April 1st, that somebody from my office can print that check and run it down, but you know what? People get sick, cars break down, people get sick on the receiving end. That's a big gamble. I'd rather not risk doubling the payment from $62,000 that's owed to $127,000 if it's not there in the right hands at the right time. We owe it today. This was an agreement that was made between the tax department and the law department and MedPace over a year ago. You know, I would recommend just paying it. If we pay it, and we pay the other things that are kind of listed here at the top, the way our revenue projections go, on this sheet it says, you know, we'll be within $25,000 of hitting payroll. I think we've got enough coming in, given our revenue, that we'll be able to hit that payroll. If we don't pay anything else. Everything below the line, meaning Anthem, gets paid 2 months' payments on April 1st. That is a check that we will hand deliver. Police and fire pension gets 2 months on April 1st. And then all of the other priorities. That's my suggestion of how to approach the rest of this month and pretty much hold everything else off. When you look at the actual cash flow sheet, kind of going back to that, and you notice there were some cash flow numbers. You know, we only spent about $2,500 on miscellaneous things out of the general fund, and the number there under miscellaneous is $19,068. The $15,000 difference is all of the employees and the people who work for the city that are 1099 employees. So they get paid along with payroll, but they're not a payroll figure because they are contract employees just paid a fixed rate. So, and that's about $15,000 a month that is part of that projected $100,000 a month that we pay. So then going into the bills for next month, you know, if we pay what we want to pay this month or what we've kind of talked about at this point, pay that double payment to Anthem, pay a double payment to police and fire, do the 2 payrolls next month, pay some extra benovation to get caught up on them, and OPERS and transferring the rest of the money to the bond fund, we can start paying off some of these other bills that are listed here. And some of these other bills that we're talking about are things like the police buyback, the police training allowance. You know, these are large sums of money that will need to be paid. And you'll see those in kind of that gray area. It's colored on my computer, sorry. You'll see that there's payroll 4-1 and MedPace listed on there in case we wanted to hold those over, but like I said, I'd rather pay those things this month. And then we get into dispatcher buyback, 914 clothing allowance. You know, approaching it from that standpoint that we discussed last time, let's pay the things that are owed, that are the most distantly owed. What am I thinking of? The oldest bills first. There you go. If we pay the oldest bills first, with some exception, the police and fire pension, we always are paying their oldest first, but we can't bring them up to date yet. We just keep plugging away and chipping away at how much we owe them until about this time next year when we can make a big chunk payment to them. And the C9 trust. That's way outstanding, over a year. if we pay the other things and start looking at our vendors, then we can start taking other things off this list. And I would say that we could probably get mostly caught up on our separation pay, these smaller separation pays that were owed since December, as well as looking at some of our vendors. So that's when we kind of come into the third sheet, just the letter size, that's two sides that look like this. That one. So, just to start with, on the one side, we do have the list of requested POs that were insufficient. This hasn't really changed much. We're going to address this as we get further into the year. These are people that want POs that don't have money in the fund. Some of these are things that we are going to move money around to cover, such as the last insurance payment, et cetera, but that's a third quarter issue. The other thing is priority payments. This is put together by Jane in my office. She maintains this spreadsheet on a daily basis. This long thing that you guys saw that has every bill that's owed to the city, that's maintained on a monthly basis and continually updated by her as we pay things. And what I had her do with this is say, well, what are the big priorities that we have to pay? And that's that top block of numbers. You'll see some of those are paid, and most of those are on the longer list that I provided. But the new thing that's on here that's not on that other list is this middle section. And I said, what would it take April 1st if we want to get everybody in the city up to 90 days payment, right? We're within 90 days, and that's $84,000. If we get everybody that's an outside vendor up to 60 days, that's $128,000. And if we get everybody by 30 days, within 30 days, then it's $203,000. Looking at what the revenue projection is for April, paying the police buyback, police training allowance, the clothing allowance, the court pay, and the dispatch buyback, we should be able to hit about, that $128,000 to $150,000 worth of payments and bring all of our vendors, with the exception of the things we discussed before, up to within 60 days. And then maybe get them, either we get to the 60-day number, because I think I put $150,000 into that. That number does not include the separation pay, which I do have on that list, but there's a lot that we're going to have to play with that. I would say everything up to 90 days, most things up to 60 days, some up to 30. But what that's going to leave on the list that's further at the bottom is going to be police and fire clothing allowance, $80,300. Fire buyback, $278,000. Those two things not being able to be paid in April. And essentially putting those on the list with everything else, and as we pay things and get caught up, those get paid. Just like the police and their buyback from December. Hopefully not as long. But on a cash flow basis, when we have the cash to be able to pay things, keeping the lights on, because I have a disconnect notice from Duke for the street lights. I'm not sure if they can actually do that, but I've got the disconnect notice. The street fund is another issue. The street fund is a fund. It gets its revenue from various sources, gasoline excise tax, there's money that comes in to fund it. There's personnel costs that come out of it. One of the things that has earned that fund a significant revenue for the past several years are street openings, right? Duke's here, tears a big hole in the street. They have to pay us when they dig that hole. They have to pay a permit. This year, we're not getting any revenue from that. They're just not digging holes in our street yet. Which means the revenue for the street fund cannot support the expenses for that fund. being a standalone fund, it has to support itself. And what I would suggest is, number one, we're going to make a $13,000 payment to it this month out of that fund. It won't affect the numbers that we've talked about so far. That's November's bill. And that they're going to want December and January, probably at least in April. And I don't think that revenue is going to be there to support it. We can advance money by creating an advance key. We did this last year also and didn't use the full amount of the advance. And the idea is, if the revenue, if there's any carryover at the end of the year, or if the street, they start in the summer tearing holes in and the revenue goes up, we can then get that money back from the street fund back to the general fund.
So we don't really know what they may owe us currently from street openings so far this year.
I don't think they've done much to it. Joe was here. I kind of talked to the mayor a little bit about it. He said as far as he knew, there weren't any major projects going on with the street openings. Like they were with putting the gas lines in. They were tearing everything up.
I mean, over on Williams and Kenilworth and over in that areas. But anyhow, we'll have to check with them all to see what, I mean,
So I would recommend a change of appropriations ordinance that includes a $50,000 key, which would be 012802. 7,400, and that would be a advance key that if we're in a situation that we absolutely have to pay a bill and we don't have the revenue, the general fund can put it in there. But then that means there's other stuff in the general fund that won't get paid. So my comment about the bills earlier to the electric bills, is great. The bills will be less. We still won't have the cash to pay them for a while, but they'll be less. So everything's going to have a priority. Everything has to go on the list, and as the cash comes in, we pay it. And we see a chunk of cash in April. We see a chunk of cash in August, September. We see a little bit in November, December, not as much. We'll see another chunk in January, another chunk next April. And so we need to sort of plot out what we're paying at those times and getting caught up. And being caught up on our vendors by this time next year, or April of next year, and starting to make major advances on paying the police and fire pension down, and then after that, making major advances to pay down the C9 trust. That's going to be a 2.5-year plan.
I'm guessing that the automatic withdrawals that gentleman mentioned is a concern for...
That's a concern to me because that's a treasurer question, and I don't know, but I doubt that is something a municipality is allowed to do. But that's definitely something I talked to the Deputy Treasurer, Tax Commissioner Chuck Barlow about that. And call their office and see. I'm not sure if that's something that would be allowed by the state or not. That would be my only question with that. And we don't have credit cards. So.
yeah, we take them.
We take them.
You're right, it's a good thing.
Yes. Is there any questions about what I've provided here? One other thing, two other points very quickly. I did get an email from the tax commissioner saying there was somebody who had written, let's see, good morning, Marcus. I've received correspondence from James Neeser regarding payment of his invoice for writing the new tax ordinance required by Ohio House Bill 5. Could this invoice be paid by March 22nd, 2016? The purchase order is for $2,000, but he was able to finish writing the ordinance for under budget, so it's only $1,520. My response is going to be no. You could get paid at the beginning of April and kind of go in the stack with everybody else. It's another good example of this state making unfunded mandates, saying, hey, by the way, you have to rewrite all this stuff and have fun finding a way to pay it. The other issue is I got an invoice from the safety service director for $17,218 for work on the boiler, and I would say pay this because we got a check for that amount. So it's a pass-through. We have an invoice from a company. We got a check for $17,000 from the insurance company to cover it. So I would pay this because we got money to pay it.
As long as it didn't get spent on something else.
Right, yes.
So
Well,
just
it kind
as long as
of,
that check
it
covers.
kind of does, but it's a pass-through, so I would say go ahead and pay it. And then we may want to increase that key, which will be the 911 key for public lands and buildings, 01-911-7200, by $17,000 because it's just a pass-through.
Yep. Okay. All right. So for Tuesday, as far as appropriation changes, that one would be on there for that 01-911-7200.
Yes.
The, an advance key, the 0128-02-7400 for, street fund in the event we need it.
And I would put a decrease on it to the vehicle fuel key, which I think is 010311, but might be 0820. I'll have to look here. Oh, 010815, 7300.
Okay.
And we'll just decrease that by the amount that we're increasing the street fund.
All right. So those will be the major changes, and then hopefully these bills that we discussed prior we'll be able to meet those, plus make the payroll that we've discussed, and then hopefully next month, because I know there's, like some of our auto parts places that we were we need to be caught up on too, so we can keep repairing the stuff that we have now. All right, and so we'll report that out, and also we'll report out for discussion the issue of cruisers. We'll also report out the issue on the radios, and we'll also report out the Duke proposal for the lighting replacement. So we can report that out for full discussion of council. And hopefully with these minor changes, we can make it through to the next meeting.
I will be leaving,
You're gone the last week.
yes, so I'll be here Monday and Tuesday, and then from Wednesday, I'll be working 3 days, and then I'll be gone for like 2 weeks. I'll be back April 7th.
Okay.
And you can text me. I may not respond.
I wouldn't blame you.
All right, we can take this and at least get us started, and we'll get this packets of this information that we had on all three of the items discussed tonight to the other council members in the event that they don't have them, and move forward. All right, then I will call this meeting to adjourn and fill this out. We'll sign it and get going. So, thanks for coming. Thanks, everybody.